payoff. It's a very, very interesting thing to watch if you're just interested in the whole culture of decision making. Whereas obviously, as you get beyond the ER, medical decision making becomes much more risk averse. And it's interesting because the people in the ER at one point in season 2 say, we accept the fact that every few years you get sued by somebody. Because if you're not getting sued by somebody, in a sense, you're probably not doing the job right.
You're in an acute situation. You have to make a
decision.
decision.
You have to be prepared to make mistakes.
Yeah. The other thing I want to pick up on, something you said earlier, talking about averages. And I remember seeing you speak at an event.
Yeah.
And you were talking about Air Force fighter planes and averages.
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Yeah. So there was an extraordinarily clever scientist, and they were trying to design the perfect seat for a US fighter plane. And so they designed it around the average pilot. And that meant average forearm length, average thigh length, average, butt size, etc. And virtually nobody found the plane seats comfortable. And what they discovered is that whereas quite a lot of people have an average forearm length, the number of people who are average in all 8 dimensions is incredibly small. And so if you're designing something for the human forearm, let's take the height of a door handle, okay? There is such a thing as the average height of your arm. You may, by the way, want the door handle to be high enough so that small children can't open the door and escape. There are all kinds of other motivations you may have. But broadly speaking, the average will work quite well there. But when you take more and more variables and average for all of them, you're actually ending up designing for a customer that doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something very interesting there, which is what they found is that what you had to have was adjustable seats. And so, this is why I think competition in business. I was on an economics podcast and I said, the great thing about capitalism, if you're a conventional economist, it's that it solves the problems very efficiently because competition drives people to reduce costs. That's sort of true in a banal way. Actually, the really good thing about capitalism is it solves the same problem in 18 different ways. In some senses, competition is ludicrously inefficient. Look at the number of, and the most extraordinarily inefficient, the most absurd manifestation of capitalism solving for multiple problems is the luxury watch industry. Okay. Because there is a basic Casio which you can buy for £18, which everybody agrees that for the purposes of timekeeping and functionality is basically a flawless watch. Yeah, the F91W or something. I actually imported this from Japan, but it was only £100, and it's a Casio which connects to your phone. So as a result, the timekeeping is flawed. It also has motion in picture, by the way. Anyway, sorry, no doubt. If you go deep dive into the watch industry, there's brand subtlety. People who want to pretend to be pilots, people who want to pretend to be divers, people who want dress watches, people who want gold. But the point is that capitalism covers the waterfront much better because companies position themselves against each other and consequently explore a much wider solution space than they would do if they were all focused on the same average customer.
Conscious of time and bringing this towards a close, and I could sit and literally talk to you for days, Rory. Okay, let's talk very briefly about a product that I don't think most people would think to design or bring into existence, but we're sat in.
I'm absolutely captivated by this because it is the absolute embodiment of what I call reverse benchmarking, which is that I think secretly everybody would quite like a caravan, just as I believe that all men secretly want to own a shed.
Or a canal boat.
Or something like that. The problem is, I would argue, for a lot of people, is entirely psychological. There are practical problems. Where do you store it? I get that. Actually, there are caravan storage parks all over the place if you need that. Or everybody would like a motorhome or something of that kind. The problem is almost entirely image-based. And what you've done here is, this is what Steve Jobs would have had if he decided to become a caravaner. In other words, the fact that it's sort of Airstream inspired, the way it leans into design, but most of all the use of wood. Yeah. What you've done, okay. So before Steve Jobs came along, actually, let's give Johnny Ive a bit of credit. Before Johnny Ive designed the iMac, if you put and by the way, these factors generally don't come out in research, but they're incredibly strong emotional drivers or emotional brakes. If you put a computer in any room of your house in 1993, you'd basically turn that room into an office. You might as well put a photocopier and a fucking filing cabinet in there, and have a Sasco wall planner on the wall, okay? Because the computer just said it's a work device, it's beige, it's entirely utilitarian. Suddenly, Johnny Ive and Steve come up with a computer you want to lick. It's actually an adornment to any room in which it appears. It has a fantastic psychological design feature, which is the iMac had a handle. You weren't really supposed to carry it around, but they wanted it to feel like something you could comfortably touch. That was entirely a kind of psychological hack. Not entirely, but the handle was there almost as much for emotional as for functional reasons. And if you put a caravan in large numbers of gardens, I live in the grounds of a bloody Grade 1 Georgian house, And my neighbours would go absolutely doolally, okay, if I turned up with a bright white caravan thing. If you put one of these in the wood, they'd be ecstatic.
Mhm.
And it's worth noting that, there are certain psychological things. One of the things we know as marketers is the more places in which you can sell, the more you sell. And we always used to joke that the little foil lid on the San Pellegrino can, which they seem to have got rid of, much to my annoyance, we called it the Access All Areas Pass, because it meant, because there was a foil lid on the top of the can, you could have a silver bowl full of those things at your wedding, okay? Right, because it had silver foil on the top. You couldn't do that with Tango, really, okay? And so what's so interesting is that nearly all successful businesses exist because they've solved a complicated concatenation of practical and psychological problems. And an awful lot of modern businesses, I think, have become successful precisely because either intentionally or intuitively, or sometimes by just blind luck, they've stumbled on the solution to a psychological problem which suddenly removes an obstacle to purchase. I'll give you a lovely example of this. There are, we were talking about this just a couple of weeks ago. Back in the day, Timotei was a disproportionately successful shampoo. And the theory was that because it was packaged in just green and white packaging, men were totally happy to buy it. And so it did disproportionately well because all the other shampoos that were targeted at women were to some extent repellent to the male customer. They had marbling or pink or, a picture, female imagery on the outside. Now, the advertising for Timotei was a blonde woman bathing in a mountain stream for no readily apparent reason. Because we all wash our hair that way, don't we? But it was that was also brilliant and probably appealed to men as well, to be honest. But fundamentally, it removed a friction point that was previously existing. Two of the most successful watchmakers, because I've tragically got into this, two of the most successful luxury watchmakers are Jaeger LeCoultre, I hope I pronounced that right, people also get it wrong, and Cartier, because men and women buy them. Much more than Rolex, much more than, I've never seen a woman wearing an IWC pilot's watch, apart from they're bloody enormous, I mean, women do wear Rolexes, but to a vastly lower extent than men do. And so the two watch brands which are disproportionately large compared to the prominence they may have in your own mind are there because they found another market by effectively, removing a bottleneck, fundamentally.
Yeah, taking away some friction. I said it already, I could talk to you for hours, Rory. My favourite thing about speaking with you, listening to you, is you challenge my thinking almost every time I hear your voice. Like whether it's a TikTok of you or it's a podcast of you or it's you on stage at BizX, there are things you say that make me think differently.
I hope so.
And I am ridiculously grateful for that. I am one of those mathematicians turned into
you're
a
mathematician.
So I'm a computer scientist graduate.
Of course.
But I did 2 A levels in maths. It's like that's my background, and I've ended up in marketing.
The best review I got for my book, Alchemy, was from a coder who said, what I found so useful about this book, it was in the Wall Street Journal, was I now realise I've got 2 strings to my bow, not one. I used to think I had to solve the problem with code and with brute force. Now I realise I can solve it with psychology as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier to do the latter than to do the former. By the way, seriously, marketers, nerd out on maths. I think you can turn, it's an interesting question. I think there are popular maths books which people can read. There was one, Leonard Mlodinow, called The Drunkard's Walk. Funnily enough, one of the most important books I read was, he's not very well regarded in the world of evolutionary science, Stephen Jay Gould's book, Full House, which is sometimes called Life's Grandeur, is all about his statistical reappraisal of life on Earth. And I end with a comment from a mathematician. You'll probably know Stephen Wolfram, out of Wolfram Alpha. And this is one of the most fascinating insights into business, which had never occurred to me before. And when he first said it, I thought, and then I realized it was deeply profound. I was in a meeting with him, and what he said was that evolution works in life to generate extraordinary complementary and inventive life forms because it has quite a loose fitness function. Because we always talk sort of the Darwinian narrative of, bitter head-to-head competition, red in tooth and claw, all that stuff. Well, no, it's really loose definition of success. Stay alive long enough to reproduce. That's it. Okay. If you can find the means and the environment in which you can meet those 2 criteria, doesn't matter whether you're a patch of moss, a shark, a tree, an amoeba, a bacterium, you get to stay in the game. And if you think about it, what finance is doing, what the city is doing, what investors are doing, what private equity is doing, is it's taking businesses and imposing a narrow fitness function, which is short-term return. Okay. Now, if evolution had a narrow fitness function, which is you must have gills, for example, and the way in which we're assessing the value of your life form is in terms of how efficiently your gills process oxygen, say, or how efficient, okay. The overall value of the ecosystem would be tiny. In fact, it's not even clear that the whole thing would work. The fact is that you have so many different environments in which you can attempt to find an ecological niche in which you can meet those 2 criteria, and that's what good capitalism is like. It's an endless discovery process of people finding places and markets in which they can survive and meet the criterion of stay liquid long enough to grow a bit. And what I think the financialization of business is doing is it's imposing a narrow fitness function on. Now, actually, that's what Soviet Russia did. Okay, business success was defined in advance, and then your success as an enterprise was simply on how well you fulfilled the requirements of the next 5-year plan. That's a narrow fitness function. What do we know about that? It was shit. Now, I think all that's happened with sort of the shareholder value movement and the quarterly reporting is we're creating Soviet-style capitalism. We're defining what success means in advance, and in a way, we started off thinking we can't really believe in evolution because this is all too clever to have arisen from the bottom. So let's pretend there's God. My wife's a priest, so I've got to be really careful about this. But we'll partly posit the existence of God as the creator of all this stuff. What happens in business is most progress happens from the bottom up. But the people at the top want to tell the narrative not about God, but about themselves. Of course, we're successful because of this strategy we designed 6 years ago. Now, some of your success is down to that. I'm sure. I'm not suggesting it's totally irrelevant. 50% of success is effectively being able to take advantage of lucky accidents. And that's where you need a loose fitness function, because the tight fitness function will say, you can't do that because it wasn't in the 5-year plan. Martin Sorrell used to say something amusing, which was, we don't let our strategy interfere with our tactics. What he means by that is that's a looser fitness function. Yes, we broadly speaking do this and not that. We have made a strategic choice to do more of this and less of that. However, if an opportunity arises to do something we weren't anticipating, we don't slap it in the face.
Rory, thank you so much for your time. One final but quick question. I said my favourite bit is learning from you all the time. What's been your favourite part of this conversation?
Okay. I've got a tip, which I give to everybody. If you're in marketing, what has happened is that you've been bullied by the financial rationalist establishment to justify the existence and the value of marketing in terms of what you do. What you said was, you change how I think. What I think marketers should do is sell marketing on the basis of how marketers think, not on the basis of what marketers did or do. And if we define ourselves by what we do, we're painting ourselves into a corner, because marketing is two things. It's a state of mind, it's a way of looking at the world, and it's a function. And we've, in seeking to defend the function, by effectively, endlessly deferring to financial people who don't really know what they're doing anyway, okay, what we've actually done is we've destroyed the state of mind. And the state of mind is what makes marketing valuable. Mark Ritson calls it the 180-degree flip, where you look at a business not looking out, but as a customer looking in. And that's why marketing's valuable. It's also why marketing's essential. Because if you don't have that 180-degree view, a board of directors with no marketer on it can make decisions which seem totally rational to them, but which are utterly foolish when seen from the point of view of the customer. And an example of that is, I don't think that the spate of shoplifting, I think there are a lot of factors behind it. Some of it is not unconnected with the imposition of self-checkout in retailers, fundamentally. And so what you've done is you've reduced a cost internally for which you claim the credit, but you've actually created a great big systemic problem somewhere else for which you're now not being blamed.
You're an absolute genius. Thank you so much for your time, Rory.
Total pleasure.
Pleasure talking to you as always, and look forward to doing it again.
Envy. Caravan envy. It's not often you talk about that, is it? A massive case of caravan envy.
The only name you need to know when your business is ready to grow.
Wow, that's loud.
Think of someone that's ridiculously wealthy. How do they think differently?
They didn't think about the money. If you chase money, it runs away from you. If you chase success, money follows the byproduct.
What separates earning good money
Yeah.
from having deep wealth?
Yeah, no one gets wealthy or successful without having taken some degree of risk. Who wants to be the richest man in the graveyard? You've got to enjoy it. Can we clip that?
I ask everybody this question. We've done a couple hundred of these now. No one's ever said this.
Welcome to the Action Coach podcast. Action Coach is the world #1 in business coaching. This is more than a podcast, it's your blueprint for success. So grab a pen and paper, take notes, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell for weekly growth insights. Let's do this.
The only name you need to know when your business is ready to grow.
I think we are recording now, but Felipe will. How do wealthy people think differently?
Ooh, that's a good one. In terms of what?
In terms of managing the money, in terms of developing themselves, in terms of attracting the life that they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all very different, by the way. It depends on where they've come from, how they've made it, age, family circumstance. There is no one size fits all on that.
All right, without naming anyone,
Yeah.
think of someone
Okay.
that you've been working with
Yeah.
that's ridiculously wealthy.
Yeah.
How did they think differently?
They didn't think about the money. They weren't aiming for the money. That wasn't the goal. The
What was the
success
goal?
bit was the goal.
The what?
Success. To be successful. I've said this to you before, haven't I? If you chase money, it runs away from you. If you chase success, money follows the byproduct. So in fact, all the clients I have that are super wealthy, they haven't chased the money. They've either enjoyed the job and had a passion, so by definition, they go on to become excellent at it, excel and become elite at it. Or it's philanthropic, or there's a cause, or something like that. But money and the wealth is not forefront in their mind at all. It follows the byproduct. Now, once they've got that, that's a different ballgame. They think differently, they behave differently, their goals are also.
In what ways? Do they think differently once they've started to attract it?
Well, I think they go through that stages, don't they? Of they look at it as a milestone, still not what car I have or what jet.
Wow.
They're still not looking at that. Certainly the clients I have. They're looking at that's almost like a target achieved. Like a business is now turning over 20 million quid. Okay, as a result, I've got a few myself. Great, good to know. I wouldn't be doing it without that. I'm not charity, but now I'm more interested in how I get that to 40 or 60. What does that look like? How many people am I employing? If you're that way inclined, is there philanthropy I can now get into? Because I've always wanted to.
You see, what I got from you there is they become more strategic.
Wow.
They become more strategic and they want to give back philanthropy.
Yeah. And it's part of the legacy, isn't it, at the other end? Because once you've made your money, what is next? And everyone has a different number as well. That's very interesting. We'll look at some clients and go, why are you still working? A lot, actually. And then you get into why they're still working. And it is all about legacy. Some ego. But that's also tied in the legacy as well. But it is different. It is different. But you're right. It is strategy. Instead of just going, right, I'm good at this thing, or I'm passionate about this thing, let's go. Then all of a sudden they get there, pop their heads up and say, oh, hang on a sec. I've got a few quid. I've built something here. It's worth a lot of money. Now, where do I take that? And I guess that's when the strategy comes in.
Now, apparently 98% of the statistics are made up. Maybe this one is, by the way, so I'm just quoting some regurgitated things. But nonetheless, it's an example. Apparently, 95% of the wealth is in 5% of the people's hands.
Yeah, if not less.
So like 98%.
Global, we're talking, right? Yeah.
What are they doing differently to the other 95 or 96% or 97%?
Well, they've got goals. They've got very, very fixed goals. They have to have had some kind of head start, maybe. But actually, as you well know, some of the wealthiest people on the planet came.
It's good to see you again. Thanks for doing this again.
I haven't seen you since yesterday.
Oh, we'll start there. Why did you tell me yesterday that you're busier today at this point in your life than you've ever been?
Great question, as I said to you yesterday. And I'm busy because you got to look at it. And first of all, let me apologize for being horrible company to you.
You weren't. It was amazing. We had. I guess we should tell people watching and listening to this that I flew back from New York to LA with you on your plane, and you had texted me the night before. You're like, just a warning, I'm going to be horrible company because I'm going to work all the way through. And so what you did, we sat next to each other, and you essentially, before we took off, started working. We flew, landed, and then you were still working. Like, hey, I'm not getting off the plane because you want to leave.
I was on a Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it was awesome. You weren't a horrible company at all.
No, I said to you, I enjoy it, which is the problem. It's like the ultimate stimulus response.
Why is the fact that you love working a problem?
Well, it's not a problem for me. I think it's a problem for people that I'm close to that would like me to work less. I don't agree with that. And I am busier than I've ever been in my life. I actually said to Tamara the other night, would probably like me to work a little bit less. It's the most exciting time I've ever seen in my entire life. And that includes the entertainment sweet spot of the late 70s through the end of the 90s, which was the last great period in the film business and television business, pre-streaming, obviously. I thought I was in heaven in those years with respect to the amount of things that could be created out of thin air. Today, and for the last, I started in 92 working in technology while I was still at CIA. It's now 26. I'm still doing it. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I literally can't wait. I am privileged to be able to work with some of the smartest men and women I've ever met in my life. They're all young. They're all out to do something special. They're motivated by all the right things. And every day when I'm in a meeting, with these people, I learn something. So I get discovery, I get education, I get my brain stretched. I get to watch things like I've always watched creatively, created out of thin air. I get to listen to the presentation, get challenged about whether I should get involved or not. And I do everything I can to spread myself around enough so I can get all the food for thought that's possible. Because that drives me. It's that discovery process that drives me. And it's not a FOMO process, frankly. It's very interesting in technology. I was talking to Ben Horowitz about this. It's a learning curve that gives you a stimulation that you have seen, heard something that you didn't know. But that stimulation then turns into a form of joy that you've made yourself a better person off of someone else's knowledge base. And I said the other day to one of my young mentees, I said, consider me Dracula for the brain. And, you know, the original Dracula, the conceit of the story, the book, forget there was no movie in those days, the book was this constant quest for eternal youth. And, you know, you suck a young person's blood and it makes you young. I like to view myself as in the same way, except in the gray matter area. I'm really interested in what the thought process is.
Why do you think today is more exciting for you than even the 70s, 80s, and the 90s?
Because in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we were dealing with mediums that had been around for a long time. The exciting part was the creation of the software of the moment, which was film or videotape or music or books. It was fantastic to read Michael Crichton's rough draft of Jurassic Park. It was a thrill, but it was a book, and there have been books since the invention of the printing press, actually since prior to this, handwritten. But now, change is so dramatic that it's almost frightening. Max Levchin, who was the founder of Affirm and PayPal, and I think you know Max.
I know of him. I've never met him. No.
I thought you should have him do the show. He's brilliant and a great guy. He said to me a couple of years ago, we were at a dinner, and he said, you know, if I take a day off from work, I come back and I feel like I've missed a week. And then I saw him recently at the Allen conference, and he said, I reminded him of it, and he said, if I take a day off now, I feel like I've missed 3 months. And everyone thinks that way. AI is so fast, and as far as the speed of change, that the benefits are to anything that we do is extraordinary. Now, there's a ton of potential downside, and I like to not forget that. I think we have to be very responsible with it. On the other hand, I feel the upside far outweighs the downside. I was at a dinner with a friend of mine who's a research scientist working on cancer cures. And I said, how's the 5 trials going? He said, I can't believe what's happened. And I said, what? And as you know, to set the stage, it takes a long time to get from stage 1, which are mice or other types of animals, to stage 3, which are human trials. It could be 5, it could be 10 years sometimes. He said, I have 5 trials going. 4 were started pre-AI. They're from 5 to 10 years in the making. I started one after post-AI, and I've gotten results in 9 months on a cancer cure. Think about the ramification of that and what it means for our society. I was at a meeting last week in New York, and 2 young engineers told me they had discovered a friend of theirs is working, all because of AI, on a cure to stimulate the retinal nerve if your vision is going bad. I mean, it's every day. It's every day something different. And here's the real answer to your question. We all had to be specialists until AI. Now we're all generalists. So I get to work in consumer products, in high tech, in defense, in medicine, in biopharma. I get to be involved in all these things that I'm totally unqualified for. I don't code. I'm not a scientist that can sit and understand the vocabulary of science, but I can learn about it really fast and have enough vocabulary to understand what these brilliant young minds are creating. So this creativity is the same as the entertainment creativity, but at a wildly different degree of difficulty and level up. It's not even close.
So what is the role that you're playing in the projects that you're pursuing right now?
I will basically do whatever is needed to help form these businesses. And the reality of business, which very few people really grasp, is that the basics of business, no matter what the field is, are exactly the same. The blocking and tackling parts are the same. So as pointed out to me, a film or a television show or a book or a song is packaged around talent. Talent, creator, engineer, same thing. Talent needs someone to help execute. Engineer needs people around them to help get the business in line and organized, coded, whatever they need done. The creative person making the entertainment then has to get financing. The engineer or founder of a company needs venture capital. With the entertainment maker, he then has to get distribution. Founder has his product. He's got to find a DSP or someone else to distribute his work, or just take it on his own on the internet. Either way, both also need marketing. How do you put the name into the ether? And then how do you sell the product? How do you make a profit? How do you build a culture? How do you build something that's beyond you? We started CA in 1974. In 2026, it's as strong today as it was when I was there, because we set a business model in place that has stood the test of time. And the guys that took it over followed the trajectory of where they needed to take the business and kept the same values and principles. And at the end of the day, it's binary. It either works or it doesn't. 50 years in business proves that it works.
I want to tell you about the presenting sponsor of this podcast, Ramp. I have been reading a lot about SpaceX lately. SpaceX is one of the most valuable businesses in the world, and one of the main themes in the history of SpaceX is constantly attacking and questioning your cost. Ramp helps many of the most innovative businesses in the world do exactly that. The median company running on Ramp cuts their expenses by 5%. And one thing SpaceX has demonstrated is that a religious dedication to controlling costs can help actually increase revenue, because you can pursue opportunities you couldn't otherwise. And we see that in the Ramp data too. The median company running on Ramp also grows their revenue by 16%. So when you're running your business on Ramp and your competitors are not, you have a massive competitive advantage that compounds over time. Ramp is the only platform designed to make your finance team faster and happier. Many of the top founders and CEOs I know run their business on Ramp. I run my business on Ramp, and you should too. Go to ramp.com to learn how they can help your business save time, save money, and grow revenue. That is ramp.com. So let's go back to, you have a million different things you could work on. You have very limited time. You're ruthlessly efficient, which is what I saw on the plane yesterday, and I kind of guessed from our multiple conversations. So how do you choose which projects to do right now, and like how you're going to spend your time?
Choices are made for me. I don't have to make the choice.
What does that mean?
It means that the degree of interest is proportional to the individual that's telling me about it, whether it's an investor, a founder, shareholder, venture capital.
So you're just saying you just follow your intense curiosity? What do you mean by that?
Well, I follow my curiosity. I want to see everything.
Okay.
I can't do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, there's a lot of things I don't want to do. There's a lot of ideas that don't interest me, but I like meeting the people. That's what I like. As you know, I collect art and people. I love art, and I love to meet smart people, and that drives me. But the choice is almost, David, get made by themselves. Is it interesting? Will it stand the test of time? Can it be built? Can it be financed? Can it be distributed? All the basics of business have to be overlaid on any of these ideas.
So do you consider yourself more like an investor, a partner? Like how do you think about yourself when you're working?
I work overtime to not be categorized. I don't want a label.
You gotta say more about that.
I'm glad you're laughing at me, David, and I'm glad you feel comfortable that you could laugh at me.
I'm not laughing at you. I love the stuff.
David, if I was younger, I'd leap out of my seat and throttle you.
I have no doubt of that.
I'm too old.
No, you might be able to throttle me. We're gonna come back to this line of questioning. But you came up to the house just now, and you're like, "Hey, sorry again for being, horrible company yesterday." I go, "Bullshit, Michael." I go, "You were an excellent example of the fact that you're maybe 35 years older than I am." And I was actually inspired by how efficient and how relentless you are with your work ethic. I was like, oh, I thought I was working hard. Like, this guy should not be outworking me.
As I said to you, I love working. I love learning. I love working.
I love you, so of course would not be laughing at you. What do you mean you don't want to be categorized?
I don't want to be typecast.
Okay.
And I said this to a young founder yesterday. When I grew up in the business world, we were basically specialists. Mm-hmm. So if you were in the entertainment business, you chose a vocation. In film, there were subdivisions of film. There was animation, there were documentaries, there were action pictures, there were comedies. You did one of those things, or you did television, or you wrote books. or you were a producer, or you were a director. You had one vocation in a larger field. Today, there's no such thing. Today, you have to be a generalist. You have to know a little bit about everything. And then, unless you're a deep scientist and you're founding Palantir or Anthropic or one of these businesses that require extraordinary brain compute power, then you are a specialist. But in the world I live in, I want to be a generalist. I'm not capable of being a specialist.
How much of this is tied to the advancements that we've seen in AI?
None.
Okay, so this was your,
I've been like this my whole life.
but then people like you are now almost have superpowers and more, even more additional leverage because of AI. Is that the way you look at it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Look, I have it sitting on my phone. It's insane how many times I go to my phone and go to Claude or OpenAI or Google to get answers on things and get a deep dive in a nanosecond. I was looking at my grandson who's 10 years old and he's going to school at a special school in New York called the Alpha School, which is,
Oh, Joe Lamont.
yeah,
I just spent a bunch of time with Joe
I
Tuesday.
have unbelievable respect for that man, that he's doing what he's doing. My grandson, my oldest son's first son, Chris's son, you know Chris, is 10 years old. He's been in that school since last September, and in 6 months, he's a different kid. Can't wait to go to school. Don't have to ask him to do his homework. He is given unbelievable responsibilities. This is all set up by using AI to teach them. They do 2 hours a day of hard study off an iPad, and he's as fluent now in knowledge as he's ever been, and he's 10. When I got called to fly to Hawaii to meet with the senior C-suite executives from Matsushita Electric, one of the largest companies in Japan, that at the time had $15 to $20 billion of liquidity on their balance sheet, unheard of in the late 80s. I had to figure out how to learn about the company. I had to go to a stockbroker's office. I had to go to the library. I had to use all analog tools. I had to get a physical copy of their 10K. Today, doing the same kind of work, as you know, I'm in the middle of 2 transactions right now, which are public. One's public, one's not. I went down a rabbit hole on 3 AI platforms. I spent 6-7 hours, 2 different days. I had so much information that I needed to add to my instinctual information because I've been around that business so long.
Which would have taken you in the 80s at the time you're going to Hawaii, how long?
I needed 4 weeks to prep for the meeting in Hawaii. I put it off for 4 weeks. I put it off for 2 reasons. One, culturally, when asked in those days, I'm not talking about today, but by traditional Japanese executives, your response has to be slow and measured. As a matter of fact, I got asked for a meeting by a Japanese company and spent 3 weeks putting them off and that kind of works for them. It's their culture. They're very slow to trust. As a matter of fact, I used to crack up when in the early 80s, I was going to Japan once a month for business, and friends of mine were going, and they'd come back and they'd call me and they'd say, "My God, I just had the greatest meeting in Japan. I'm going to close." And I'd start laughing, and they would say, "What are you laughing at?" And I'd say, "Well, call me in a year and let me know how you're doing." None of them closed anything. I spent a year cultivating relationships before I even got an assignment. But the amount of time it took me to learn about those individual companies.
You spent a year cultivating relationships before you even got an assignment?
Yeah.
What made you take an interest in Japan?
I've always been interested in Asia. Always. I'm interested in Japan and China. Have been since I started an interest in Japan in high school because I had a lot of Japanese American friends. And when I would go to their homes for dinner, I was blown away by the difference culturally. I remember this is 50 years ago, so you had a different ethos at the time and a different feeling about
Between the Japanese and American relations post World War II.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. You read Phil Knight's book, Shoe Dog?
Yeah.
Same thing. His idea was like, hey, we're gonna we're gonna try to disrupt the German athletic shoes with their Japanese competitors, and he got a lot of pushback because of the essentially tension between America and Japan at the time.
You know, I had a joint venture with Phil. I'm crazy about him. He's one
Did
of
you?
the,
I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, I did when I was at CA. We had Nike and CA had a joint venture. Matter of fact, Phil Knight and I had one of the greatest experiences in my business career. The two of us decided that there should be a NC2A college football playoff. I remember this is 40 years ago. So we met up at his place in Beaverton, and we plotted out this whole strategy, and we put an entire visual and written presentation together. And I was fortunate because I was very close to the chancellor of UCLA because I was chairman of the UCLA Medical Center. And his name was Chuck Young. He passed away recently, great guy. And he was very influential in the college president world. And I convinced him to get Phil and I an audience at their meeting in Kansas City. And here's a guy who's running Nike, and I mean running it. And here's a guy who's running a very successful entertainment business. And we did an amazing video that showed all of our stars and all of the athletes that were under contract to Nike. And we were on a stage in front of 150 NCAA presidents. And we showed that we could have made all the schools at the time millions of dollars of revenue if we just did a playoff rather than chose bowl games with random people. We rehearsed what we were going to do. We had a fantastic dual presentation. We ran our video. We both got up to the rostrum on each side of the screen. That's how we decided to start to present. And we started pitching. And we're both not bad at that, the two of us. And he's particularly good. And we look at each other and we realize no one's listening to us. They're like having conversations. They're at round tables instead of chairs. And then we ran another video, and then I walked over to him and I said, "This is not going well. We got to start to wing it." And we did. And we left. And they ultimately said they didn't want to do it. They told us they wanted to commission a report, which they did. It ran about 500 pages. And the conclusion they came to was exactly what we told them. And now, 30 years later, they decided to do it. So the amount of money they left on the table was frightening. We both learned a really good lesson from that stuff.
How competitive is Phil Knight?
Phil Knight is the most competitive businessman alive. And bar none. I'm crazy about that guy. I have such respect for him. He took a standard item, these shoes, and he changed the world with them. If you go back to the beginning when he did Tiger, which was a Japanese shoe, that's where he started. When he and Penny, his wife, were selling these things out of the trunk of their car.
Yeah.
The soles were flat and they weren't really comfortable. They were made for running because of his track coach, Bill Bowerman.
And his co-founder, yeah.
Yeah. But all of a sudden, they get cushier, the heels get higher, they're in colors. I love going online and doing the customization thing. I just think it's the most fun thing imaginable.
The reason I asked is because out of all the people I've read for my other podcast founders, the most ruthlessly competitive, I put like Michael Jordan up there. I think Larry Ellison, young Bill Gates, definitely like this. But Michael Jordan is open. He's just like, I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem. And Kobe would tell stories about, Kobe's like, Michael Jordan's my older brother. I'm competitive when it comes to basketball. Michael's competitive with everything. Like, who can eat the salad the fastest, or he's just got an addiction to competition. And yet I was reading this obscure biography of Michael Jordan. I think it was written before he retired. And they were talking about in the history, this is after Michael was signed to Nike. And within the first few years, immediate success. But then there's this guy that got in Michael Jordan's ear to maybe convince him to go and like launch with somebody else. And they had a meeting where essentially somebody in Nike warned them, like, you don't understand. Phil Knight is the most competitive person on the planet. If you do this and you betray him, like, he will chase you to the ends of the earth. And I just remember reading that book and like, they're saying this to one of the most competitive people. I say, no, you think Michael Jordan's competitive. You haven't seen anything with this guy. And the reason I think it's funny is because in Shoe Dog, obviously autobiography, he's like, yeah, I'm a pretty competitive fellow. I'm like, that might be an understatement.
I have to say, David, I'm thinking right now about ending the podcast because I really am upset that you didn't name me as one of the most competitive people you've met. No, look, at the end of the day, let's be straight out about it. It's not politically correct.
Yeah.
But business is a competitive, cutthroat sport. Now, I'm not saying you do anything immoral or illegal and you have to have guidelines. But if you're not willing to get out there and do what Magic Johnson did on the court, or Michael Jordan, or any of the greats, I learned it from Irvin. Irvin, who I am crazy about, who I helped start his business career. I only mention it because he's been kind to me beyond belief in his autobiography and everything else. He came to me and said, look, I want to be in business. No other athletes at that time said that. And they did their service, and 35, they were done. Irvin said, when I'm done, I want to be able to be a businessman. And we went and set that course. What I learned from Irvin was an extraordinary lesson that helped me build CAA, which was when he was doing the fast break, which was referred to as showtime down that court, he had no goal except to score. And he didn't care who got that ball in the basket. It just had to get in there. And you had 4 guys, 2 and 2, running down that court, or 3 and 1, with him carrying that ball, and he'd move down that court. He would pick whoever he thought could make that shot, and he had no ego about it.
So how'd you use that idea at CA?
Because it was about winning at the end of the day. It's about competition. It's about not having an ego about it. One of the great things we did at CA is I didn't care who scored. I just wanted to score. And when we asked people to do things at CA, even the youngest people, we never asked them to do anything we wouldn't do ourselves. And if they were slow on it, I went and did it to prove a point. I can't tell you how many times a week in a morning meeting where I asked someone to do something, or one of the department heads asked someone to do something, and it didn't get done by 5 o'clock, one of us did it.
I found one of my all-time favorite quotes when I was reading the book 0 to 1. The quote says, "The single most powerful pattern I have noticed is that successful people find value in unexpected places, and they do this by thinking about business from first principles instead of formulas." That is exactly what AppLovin has done with their advertising platform. AppLovin connects you with over 1 billion potential new customers inside mobile games. AppLovin allows you to capture undivided attention. AppLovin ads are full-screen video ads that are watched for an average of 35 seconds. That is retention that blows other ad platforms out of the water. And you can launch on AppLovin in minutes. You set the goal, and AppLovin achieves it. There's no complex setup, no expertise needed, and AppLovin scales quickly. They can put your ads in front of over 1 billion potential customers. Other businesses have seen immediate results, have scaled to hundreds of thousands of dollars of spend per day, and increased their revenue by millions. So you want to get started quickly before all of your competitors are on AppLovin. And you can do that by going to applovin.com. That's applovin.com. This is why yesterday was so important. Because it's one thing, like, we've obviously built a friendship, we've had countless dinners, we spent a lot of time talking. I've fucking read your book like 3 times. I had this thought, we're gonna go in a weird direction. I had dinner with Charlie Munger when he was 99 years old, okay? And anybody at 99 is gonna have some level of cognitive decline, right? It's gonna happen. And I'm sitting across from this guy, and all I remember is, like, I have to work hard when I'm, like, reading books, and, like, I highlight everything, I take notes, I reread them. People are like, you have such a good memory. I read my notes 10 times. I don't have a good memory. And yet, I would ask Charlie, he was sitting in front of his bookshelf behind him, and I'd see a book that, he'd recommend reading one time, and I'd read. And I'm like, "Oh, Charlie, tell me about, this biography of Henry Kaiser behind you." And he would rattle off the businesses he built, the revenue of the companies, what happened to that company, how many, what happened to his business partners. And then after we went from his library to go to dinner, I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I go through your bookshelf?" He's like, "Go ahead." I'm assuming, I pick up the book, probably covered in notes. Nothing, completely empty. Like, maybe like 1 or 2 notes in pencil in the margin. And when I realized, it's like, my God, imagine what his brain was like, his mind was like when he was 45 or 65, and that is who you're competing against. I thought about that yesterday, because obviously you understood and read about your work ethic, we talked about it, but then to also see it, even, you're 6 decades into your career. And I was like, oh, there's like different levels of this. There's like a fundamental difference between like reading about something and then observing it. So I want to tie this together. Like, I was expecting to go on your competitive drive. When you jumped into the agent business in the very beginning, was it obvious that you were just going to be able to outwork everybody else around you? Was it obvious to you?
It was obvious to me, but no one else. Everyone said we were going to fail. One of my closest friends I worked with at William Morris said something to me I have not forgotten since he said it to me in 1974. It's something I will never forget, and it turned out to be such a fantastic stimulant for me to this day. We were sitting together, we were having a coffee. He said to me, "So good that you're starting this business. In a year, you'll be looking for a job." I said, "Really? And what makes you think that?" He said, "Oh, you're going to fail." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes. You can't make it. There's almost 200 agencies out there. You're not going to compete with the big ones." Second incident, within 6 months of that, a leading TV literary agency run by the best friend of one of our guys, we met with the thought of merging, which would give us what we needed, which were writers, because they're the font of packaging, right? In the meeting, and I told you this story before, so I want to say it fast and not repeat it in detail. The 4 partners of that agency said, "We'll never represent any movie stars." And I looked at him, I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "You'll never get them." I said, "We're going to have all of them." And he said, "You're just so arrogant." I said, "I'm not arrogant at all, actually. I just know I'm going to outwork every one of them." Every time we signed a movie star, which was once a week, we took out a full red page ad in Variety. This is when there was no computers. People actually read, and took out every Friday. Every time we signed a movie star, I took that ad, tore it, put it in an envelope to those 4 guys. And I did it for the next 10 years. Now, competition, love it. Monopoly, absolutely love it. There's no room for competition. I love Peter Thiel's Monopoly lectures at Stanford. He's spot on.
He says competition is for losers.
It is for losers because you're competing with yourself, basically. That's how I view it. I'm not competing with anybody else. It's why I keep my calls to a minimum, my Zooms to a minimum, my meals to a minimum of time devoted. When someone says to me, I have to take an hour Zoom, I kind of laugh at them. I said, what law is there on the planet that says a Zoom has to be an hour? I said, frankly, if you get free Zoom, they cut you off for 45 minutes. I said, so what rule is it that has to be an hour? Oh, I don't know. I do them in 20 minutes. I just don't believe it. If we're in the middle of a critical diligence item or somebody's trying to explain something really complicated, okay, I get that. But the concept, for example, of hour meetings, let's just fill the hour, even if we have nothing to say. I don't want any small talk. It's not social time. I'd love to hear about your kids, but I'd like to hear that over dinner or lunch. I'm not interested. Let's get down to what we're doing. What are we doing? We're trying to build a business. We're trying to market that business, and we're trying to blow out the competition as fast, as cleanly, as simply, and as brutally as we can. Because the idea is to keep it going until they can't see straight. And to do it any other way makes no sense to me. Now, by the way,
啊，
there are people that have done it without that
没
thesis,
有一直定
but it's not a thesis I subscribe to.
There are people that have done it without this ruthless competitive drive. And
Yeah, they've
我不要。
there's, by the way, and I'm excluding creative people because creative people have a hard and a soft side. They're much harder side than people tend to imagine or think. But they have a very soft side because they're very sensitive. It's that sensitivity and perceptual ability tied together that creates images or words. But they also have a very hard side. I watched Marty Scorsese take Harvey Weinstein apart in a room.
对，
Like
好
he
了，
was a
前
toothpick
没
面
有好，
over a movie that he was doing where Harvey was giving him
没有
the
看过就
dumbest
在黑
notes
黑。
imaginable.
imagine thinking you could be in a position to give Scorsese notes on a
Well,
movie.
that's the whole point, isn't it? Listen, I've been in rooms with mega filmmakers because we had all of them. At one time, CA represented the top 50 grossing variety box office filmmakers. We had 46.
这
46.
是老男
And I
神
was
的吗？
upset because I didn't have all of them.
讲他赚多少钱，他多努力，就是这样讲。
就是要学这
My
个
whole
老
career.
人。
他这个能80，他现在80几岁。
I find it, notes are good if you give them and then let somebody do what they want to do. They know better.
对呀，
Now, on timing and other things like that, that's a different story. But nobody should be giving Marty notes about the core of his film or the conceit of a character or where he's putting the camera. You know, it's a joke. It really is a joke. I mean, the man's seen every movie ever made. He has an encyclopedic knowledge. And it's interesting. He's like Charlie Munger, but he's not, doesn't do that for a living. There are people that are gifted in their recall. I'm not one of those people. You just said you're not. I really have to struggle with memory that I need to keep in place for what I do.
Tell me more about this hard side of some of these creative geniuses that you work with. What do you think is driving their need to be hard? Is it just that they're disagreeable when it comes to the
Not at all.
craft?
Not at all. I think they are protecting their vision. I think filmmakers have a very clear vision of what they want to achieve. I think sometimes they lose their way, but they get it back. I had a situation with Barry Levinson and Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise on Rain Man where Dustin couldn't find a character in the first week, and I think Barry got very frustrated because the movie was, a lot of it was not scripted. A lot of it was done in the moment. I think that the movie benefited from this problem at the beginning because Dustin found the character. Barry had the patience to let him do it, which is hard because you're losing money every day. Everyone forgets that. And then Barry found a balance of improvisation versus script. And the movie's perfect from beginning to end.
So bring me back to the meeting between Scorsese and Weinstein. That's why the hard side of him came out because he was protecting his vision.
Well, Marty had a point of view that was right. That's why I ended that meeting pretty fast. First of all, he shouldn't have been in the editing room. It's okay for Marty's agents to be in the editing room, but not the producer, unless the producer is someone incredibly close to him where they've done multiple movies together.
You've been around a lot of founders. Isn't that same instinct to protect the vision that Marty had in that situation? Isn't it the exact same thing that they're
I
doing?
think it's a common denominator of anyone who's successful. I think we're talking about all the things that make people successful in any vocation: dedication, work ethic, intelligence, curiosity, protect the vision, find things that give you food for the thought, for the vision. Inventory them in your head. Let them marinate, because if they stay in your head, that means you're onto something. It's no different than the way I collect art. I collect art contextually, which is I see as many images as I can. My brain takes in what I like, rejects what I don't over time, and that's how I collect. So it's a foundational issue of context. And I think filmmakers do the same thing.
Yeah, you spent a bunch of time with Josh Kushner, I know, especially at the beginning of Thrive. I just spent some time with him, and a large part of our discussion was really just like about his vision. And from hearing him speak and just listening to him like kind of map his thoughts out, it was like you said, protecting the vision is an interesting way to think about it. The way I thought about it, I read this biography of this guy who was an engineer, started Harman Kardon, the high-end audio equipment. And when
Sidney Harman.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a guy I knew well.
Yeah, he's got a great book. I think the autobiography is called Mind Your Business.
I've read it. He was an amazing man, and I'm an audiophile. And he, at one time, made the greatest speakers. They were called Infinity IRS 1Bs, and they were 4 towers, not 2.
It doesn't surprise me that he was able to build the best product in the category that he competed in. He describes his philosophy in that book, but what I'm hearing from the experience that you've had with some of these creative geniuses, some of the conversations I have with these founders, he put it the best way. He's like, the founder is the guardian of the company's soul. I was listening to Josh speak, and during our conversation, I was like, oh, he's guarding the company's soul. He wants to make sure there's a soul inside of Thrive.
I met Josh when he was at Harvard Business School. Jared, his brother, was a friend of mine and asked me to help him with. Josh in Harvard Business School had a very valuable game company while he was in school. And Jared asked me to help him with it. Josh then is exactly the same as the Josh today. There's no difference. Wildly smart, very loyal, low-key, thoughtful, highly intelligent, and very easy to talk to, and will hold his ground. But what makes him fantastic is he'll yield his position if you can talk him out of it. I love people that hold their ground until you prove them wrong.
Yeah, I would say since you kind of like connected this whole theme of this conversation we're having right now, it's like we're really just talking about the traits of people who are successful regardless of the domain they choose to operate in. And that's something that reoccurs in all these biographies. It's just like, I don't care if the idea is not mine, I just want to win. And so if you can push back on me and say, no, David, you're wrong about XYZ, which has happened several times, like especially with my approach to podcasting over the years, I'm like, it might take me a while, but then I'll eventually flip. And I think you see that common, I think of like Steve Jobs. I just finished rereading Make Something Wonderful, which is this book put out by his widow. It's an excellent book, but there's a ton of examples in that case where it's just like, he had thought X and he was really adamant about thought X. And then he would test this. They said it's something like, what did dolphins have, like echolocation? He would throw out an idea, and sometimes he didn't even believe in that idea, but he would throw it out, and just because he wanted a reaction back, and then the information comes back to almost like sonar, like whatever dolphins have, and then he'd think about it for a little bit, and then he'd wind up changing his mind.
I consulted for years for him on Pixar when he first had the idea, and it was some of the best times I ever had because he's whip smart, unbelievable memory, totally unstoppable with an idea, and could take completely intransigent positions on things. And actually, you could talk him out of it if he agreed. The best trait any businessman can have. When I ran CAA, I had a very simple thesis. I'll take ideas from anybody. No idea is stupid because it may a bad idea may stimulate a good idea. And I want to hear from young people. I'm not interested so much in the opinions on new things from the older people, but from the older people, I want their wisdom to be spread all over it. We had a setup where every 90 days we put 200 people in a circle with their chairs tight to each other, and everybody had 30 seconds to pitch an idea, and you couldn't pass. We had a mailroom guy pitch an idea about cable. We promoted him on the spot to Asia. On the spot. It was that good.
Explain this 200 chairs tied together.
What I came up with was this concept for meetings, and we did it at all our retreats, where everyone sat in a circle or an oval. As we grew, it went from a circle to an oval because the geometry didn't work. And we made everybody's chairs touch. There was no way out of the circle or oval. That was done intentionally. And if you want to get out, you had to push your chair back and you could see the hole as big as it could be. We would meet with that as a foundation, that everyone was participating. And I ran it, and I would sit there and I'd call people that didn't say anything, and it coaxed them to say things. Some people were upset, but everyone came around in the end. Thank you for pushing me out of my hole. And people need to learn how to communicate in groups. But the people that run those groups have to learn how to listen and learn how to get ideas from people.
And so you literally developed a mechanism where every single person in the company, down to the people working in the mailroom, could pitch an idea directly to the founder.
To everyone that was a senior executive in the company, we were all there. Everybody was there. The whole concept was one point of view. I started the first meeting with saying no idea is too dumb. I want to hear everything. Over my career, some of the greatest ideas I've ever had or stolen or appropriated have been from other people. And as you know, I'm a mega Picasso fan of all my art. The guy appropriated everything. One of his most famous sculptures of the bullhorns, which is handlebars from a bicycle that he saw with a seat welded together.
Didn't he have that quote that Steve Jobs would repeat, that good artists copy, great artists steal? I think that's
Yeah.
Picasso, right?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it sounds about right. But Steve, for example, had a vision about computerized animation that Disney didn't share. They were wrong. He was right. That's it. You know, it's Barry Diller's famous line, which I will never forget and still use all the time. He competed to buy CBS, I think, or Paramount. I don't remember which one, but Sumner Redstone got both of them somehow. And when Barry was asked by the press for, what did he think? He lost. He looked at them and he said, he won, we lost, next case, which is like, says it all to me. It was so brilliant. He won, we lost, next case. He's right, 6 words. You can't look back. I am so upset with friends of mine that try to do deals that I consult on and they make a mistake or they lose it and then they dwell on it. It's dumb. It's not going to change. So what are you looking back for? I don't like to look backwards. I think you have to always look forward. There are people who totally disagree with me, but I'm a forward-looking person. If I've made a mistake, God only knows, I think one of the reasons founders talk to me is that I can tell them things they're going to do wrong because I've done it all. I've made every mistake in business you can make. I've had some wins too, but I've made a lot of mistakes. My goal is to use that to prevent my young people from making further mistakes because they're all going to be the same.
It's unbelievably valuable if they can learn from other people's experiences. I think that's one of the things I get most out of our conversations. I also like that you are unapologetically extreme. You don't hide the fact that you are an extreme personality, that you were when you were younger. You still to this day. You just threaten to jump out of the chair, and I think throttle me is the word that you
I was
used.
trying to be polite.
That's really
But
funny.
I did say I'm too old to do
That's
it.
fine. I wouldn't even fight back. That's fine. I have too much respect for you. Tell me about this deal that we can talk about. I know you have a few deals going on. One's a few or not.
One I can't talk
Yeah, exactly.
about.
So
Yeah.
tell me about the one that you can talk about.
Well, it's public. I can say that Bill Ackman and I have been friends for 33 years. Had a discussion about his position in Universal Music. We were kicking it around. He was a large shareholder, was on the board. I like Lucian Grange a lot because he's a talent guy. And my thesis about all these companies, if you don't have someone that understands talent running the company, because you can always get an operator. If you don't have someone who understands talent, that company's going to die. And Lucian's really good, but Lucian's growing the company geometrically every year, signing every artist, publishing's great, and the stock keeps going down. And it crept down to 10 points under the IPO price. And I said to Bill, let's take it private. And he loved the idea. And number of things occurred. I told him we couldn't do it unless it was friendly, because Bill has done both. Bill's very smart. I mean, really smart and very direct, which is what I like about him. Because as you know, I love your opinions because you tell me what you think. And we did some diligence, met with Lucian to see if he'd be interested. If we did do something, gave him a 41,000-foot overview, made it very clear that a condition proceeding to the deal would be his running the show. We would support it. I would become chair and support him, and particularly in the tech and AI area, which he's very attuned to, but could use some help. In his job, there's not enough hours in the day. There just aren't. You think about the amount of time he has to spend internally, externally, with talent in studios. It's just endless. It's an impossible job. It's so difficult, and he does it brilliantly. And we sent the letter. We did it publicly, so there's no secret. There's nothing nefarious. No one's going behind anybody's back. Put the money terms right on the table. We're very well financed. Made a very handsome deal offer, and we're waiting for an answer.
Deal is how the best founders turn the world into their talent pool. I've been studying how history's greatest founders operate for a decade, and one thing they all have in common is they understand that recruiting and hiring the very best talent is your most important priority. A players recognize other A players, which is why top companies like Ramp, Shopify, 11 Labs, Uber, and DoorDash all use Deal. Many of the top founders I know have personally invested in Deal after using the product, and what they discovered is that Deal is the best company in the world at building infrastructure for global hiring. Deal will help your business hire, pay, and manage any worker anywhere in the world, so you can retain the best talent anywhere and spend the rest of your time focusing on what you do best, delivering value to your customers. The founder of 11 Labs has a great description of the value Deal can give your company. He said, "We built 11 Labs to break down language and communication barriers. With Deal enabling us to hire and support exceptional talent anywhere, we can accelerate our innovation and bring more voices, stories, and ideas to every corner of the world." Deal is trusted by over 40,000 businesses. Learn how they can help your business today by going to deal.com/Senra. That is deal.com/Senra. So we talked about the opportunity cost of your time and picking which project to dedicate your attention to, your resources to. Why did you choose to do this?
I think music is a critical component going forward in the new internet era, particularly with AI. We've seen it, what's going on with Suno and Udio, where they're taking IP that other people own, even 10 seconds of it, and constructing custom-made songs. Music is never going away. I think the advent of Daniel Ek's Spotify, which he developed in a garage in Sweden, in Stockholm, is a game changer. And I think that music's at the foundation of so many things that are digitally based, from games to movies, television, AI, all of the image capturing that's done. Don't you find it fascinating that on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, almost everything you see, someone chooses music to go behind it? It's part of our culture worldwide, it's not country by country. There's a common denominator of British and American music around the world, and it's a door opener. It's something everyone can hear and relate to, even if they don't speak the same language. So I love the idea. I love the Bill's financing capability. I love Lucian's management and talent expertise. And I like the fact that I grew up in that business. My first job was in the music business, started in the music division at CA that to this day is the tops. I think it's a lot of complementary factors. Whether we get it or not, I have no idea. It's frankly up to one shareholder, and that's one family that controls 28% of the stock.
What do you think would the effect of AI be on the music industry? So I talked to Jimmy Iovine about this. I still don't understand. He texted me about this like 2 days ago, and I'm reading through this. I still don't understand what he means, so I'll see him when he gets back. But if Universal Music Group has, I think it's the largest music category in the world, right? AI is not going anywhere. You said people are already taking and training new songs based on other people's ownership. Is the idea that like the record labels could do that themselves, or are you saying that's going to be a huge potential future income stream?
I'm not going to say anything about it because I think it's a very difficult problem that right now is under analysis by all the music companies.
Is there anything analogous that you've experienced in other forms of entertainment from the past?
Oh, yeah. I was appointed to a U.S. trade delegation in 1996 by President Clinton. I was a large fundraiser for him, and I went to Beijing with 20 business people. President Bush, 41. To try to get them to stop pirating video cassette movies and television shows.
The Chinese?
Yeah. They were the largest producer of pirated tape in the world. And we went over, I spent a week there. It was a fascinating week. I got to sit with Jiang Zemin, who was the prime minister, the chairman of the party, and they don't call him the prime minister. He was the chairman. Zhu Gongzi, who was the brilliant financial former mayor of Shanghai, who did all the financial architecture for what you're now seeing of getting China into the 20th century, 21st century. And we had round and round of meeting, and President Bush was incredibly popular there because when he was ambassador to China, and he was very well liked.
You don't have to comment on this if you don't want to, but something just came to mind because I just had a conversation with Ed Catmull, founder of Pixar, and I would have to imagine you and Bill Ackman are doing this because you think AI could be a massive advantage and tailwind to the music industry. The reason I bring this up is because Ed was constantly his entire career, his whole goal was to take the latest technology and apply it to storytelling and animation, right? With the stated goal, which he did, stated goal of making the world's first feature-length animated computer animated movie, which he did with obviously the Toy Story. We brought, I have this guy that works with me on my other podcast, Founders. His name's Maxim. He's a young filmmaker. I flew him over from England to go to this recording with Ed Catmull because Maxim wants to make films. This is one of the best filmmakers of all time, or built one of the best companies that made the best films of all time. Maybe you should talk to him. And me, him, and Maxim were talking before we started recording. And I asked him, I was like, how, he's obviously pro AI. He's pro technology. He's like, you cannot get Ed Catmull, that is. It's like, just like Walt Disney, he called Walt Disney a technologist. And he's like, go through Walt Disney's career. He always embraced the latest technology in service of telling the better story or completing the project in a better way than whatever he's working on. And I go, Ed, when do you think we're going to see the first, like, just phenomenal, full length, completely AI generated movie? And he's just like, there's a better question that you're not asking. And I bring this up because you were best friends with Michael Crichton. And he says there was a line of demarcation in our industry, pre-Jurassic Park and post-Jurassic Park. Like, once Steven Spielberg made Jurassic Park, the entire movie industry was changed forever. And part of that was obviously the CGI, the dinosaurs. And he's like, how many minutes of CGI dinosaurs are in that movie? And I was like, I don't know. I've seen the movie a million times since I was a kid. I was like, I don't know, like 20. And I think the answer was like 4 minutes. And his point was like, you can even use, the technology is even powerful, even if you use it for a short amount.
Yeah.
It could be 10 seconds in a 3-minute song or 6 minutes in a 2-hour movie.
When I put Jurassic Park together and I read the book, I said to Michael a couple of things. I said, one, it's brilliant and everyone loves dinosaurs. Two, you don't need a big star because the dinosaur's the star, which was important financially. And three, there's only one human on the planet that could realize this into a movie. And if he doesn't want to do it, we can't do it. And it was Stephen, sent the book to Stephen, called me the next day, said, I'm in. I believe there's more than 4 minutes. What Stephen managed to do is, for the times he used the dinosaurs, the biggest fear for that movie was, can you make them look real? And Stephen said he could do it. And I knew he could do it, and he did it. Everyone was scared to death that it would look like an early Godzilla movie, and where it was just so obvious of what it was. Stephen integrated the CGI and the actual dinosaur parts that he made and shot. There was a head, there was, part of a body that you didn't see the whole thing. He did it brilliantly, but he got them to look really real. He researched who could do it. They tested and tested and tested, and they got it done.
Why do you think Steven Spielberg was the only person? Was he a singular character?
Steven had the ability to understand the storytelling side, the casting side, and most importantly, the technical side. In those days, not everybody had that. Remember, that was in the 90s. Not everybody had the ability to use technical things. Jim Cameron did, Steven did. Not every director could do that.
And so was he like a Walt Disney kind of character too, where who throughout his entire career trying to embrace the latest technology that would help him build?
Steven knew more about everything. He and Marty, Steven, and Stanley Kubrick, to me, knew more about filmmaking, film history, respect for film. I put together a group for film preservation around Marty, and it was Marty, Steven, Sidney Pollack, Francis Coppola, and Stanley Kubrick, all clients of mine. And that's what they were into. They were real people about film. When I go to speak at a film school these days, I get very nervous. I'm particularly nervous around my 24-year-old daughter, Minty, her friends who I'm crazy about. When they talk about old movies, it's like stops at 1990, And I did a film class where I didn't even introduce myself. I had 2 classes merged together. I was asked to do this. I said, who's David? Anybody here know David Lean? No hands. Anybody here know Frank Capra? Anybody here know Willie Wellman? Anybody here know Michael Curtiz? I kept going too. Those were directors from the 40s, mostly 40s and 50s, that made some of the greatest films of all time. Lawrence of Arabia.
Which Spielberg would rewatch every year when he was learning to make films too.
I still watch it. Matter of fact, one of my best, most cherished gifts from Marty is the original, the full-length, uncut version of Lawrence of Arabia on a giant video disc that they stopped making machines for. I thank God still have one. Do you remember those, the big ones before the little ones came?
No, this is before my time.
Oh, I keep forgetting you're a child. In any case, there's no respect for the foundation of the film business, in my opinion. It's really interesting as an art collector. I had dinner the other night with Cecily Brown, who's one of my favorite contemporary artists. She talks about artists of the past with great respect and unbelievable knowledge. So she pointed to an artist for me to look at when we were at dinner the other night. And she started talking about Lucian Freud, who's an amazing artist. This artist was influenced by Freud. She knew the whole chain. And most great art is derived from other art. You know, I have a fantastic Mark Grosjean painting at my house. He's a LA artist, very gifted guy. There's two faces in it that are right out of African masks and Picasso's Mademoiselle d'Avignon.
You wouldn't know what you're looking at unless you had that background of all the time and effort you've put into just understanding art and all the history of art.
As I said to you before, knowledge is power. So I have a room in my house that has probably 25 African antiquities, 3 Picassos, all of which came out of those antiquities, because 50 years before the turn of the century, between 1850 and 1900, the Catholic missionaries were tossed out of Western Africa and Nigeria, which had a whole series of regions of tribal art. And they were reliquary figures. They were religious figures. They took them all with them when they were thrown out to Paris and Brussels. It's why one of the biggest museums of African art is in Paris, because they came back. In the early 1900s, when they ran out of money, they put these masks in the weekend little fairs that they had on the river on the left bank, and they sold them for 4 or 5 francs. Picasso bought 50 of them, and there are pictures of his studio in Mougins with these masks everywhere. If you look at his early art, all the faces are African masks. And you know, it's funny, Phil Knight and I tried to do a project to do a portable show for inner cities to show that relationship for a point of pride of where your culture, what your culture did. Some of my African art is as good as some of the European art in the same period. It's that good.
Michael, what I love about our conversations is no matter what I prompt you with, you can come up with these incredible stories, and I never know the direction that we're going to go in. I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this again with me.
I enjoy talking to you, as you know, except when I'm on the plane working.
Thanks. I'll see you again soon.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a review. And make sure you listen to my other podcast, Founders. For almost a decade, I've obsessively read over 400 biographies of history's greatest entrepreneurs, searching for ideas that you can use in your work. Most of the guests you hear on this show first found me through Founders.
Actually have to have good talent, and then the multiplier effect is you actually have to have a good business. Yeah. And I think this is a kind of tricky point, you know, and I'd like to close on this point because this is something that a lot is brought up in the kind of popular section. Businesses don't always look the same during their entire trajectory, and sometimes there are moments where they look like much better acquisition targets than others. There are a lot of companies that kind of have this S curve, and like when you're trying to sell and you're on this part of the S curve, yeah. Another way of saying this that's far simpler is that when investors have a lot of demand in investing in you is probably also when acquirers will have a lot of demand. And so it's this tricky catch-22 where you're like, why would I ever sell my company? And you shouldn't sell your company if you think that S-curve could get you to billions in revenue.
Yeah, you're basically making a bet. And if you think it'll be more valuable, you shouldn't sell.
Yes.
And if you think that maybe
if your S-curve gets you to 50 million in revenue and you're at 10, maybe there's a better deal there.
And maybe last thing for me, I've done a lot of office hours on this topic with people, obviously. Yes. And the math I tell founders to do is to do the thought experiment of if they went and applied for jobs, what would their total comp package be? What would their engineer's total comp package be? Yes. And would they choose to work there?
Yes.
Because if you're weighing an acqui-hire and you're like, well, either I could go work with struggle bus, flat stock price public company, or I could go get a job
at a good company
somewhere awesome and all my employees could too. It's sometimes better to just shut down than to pursue an acqui-hire. And this is shocking to founders.
It is often better.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, separately, you can probably much more frequently get better deals for yourselves than together.
I mean, this is cherry picking a little bit, but if I think about a lot of the YC alums that I worked with that shut down their company and went and got a job at Anthropic,
that worked.
That was like,
that worked.
In hindsight,
yes,
much smarter than literally pretty much any other option of what they could have done.
Yeah.
Again, hindsight. And so remember your value and the value of your employees.
Yes.
And that trying to do an acqui-hire just with the face-saving aspect might actually be a pretty poor decision.
I think that's a great place to close. But we should shout out Justin. Justin Kahn's got a great blog post on selling your company that you should check out too. Awesome. Cheers.
If you believe that the more money you have, the more unassailable your chance of victory is,
yes,
you should give up because Apple and Google won.
They have the money,
right?
Yes.
They have more money than you.
Yes.
And so thank God that more money doesn't equal more success.
Yes.
So that any startup has the chance to succeed, right?
Exactly. This is Dalton plus Michael, and today we're going to talk about the startup problems that money cannot solve. I can't count the number of times I'll talk to a founder and they'll say, well, they have a competitor, they just raised a big round, I'm freaked out, they're going to have all this money to do ... And I always love these conversations because my starting point is always, oh, that competitor is scary. What about the incumbent in your space that's a public company with a couple thousand people and infinite money comparatively? Are we afraid of them? Like, didn't we start this with them there? Like, this idea that we can convert money into success, our industry would be so much more profitable.
Well, we talked about this in the videos before, but basically, if you believe that the more money you have, the more unassailable your chance of victory is,
yes,
you should give up because Apple and Google won.
They have the money,
right?
Yes.
They have more money than you.
Yes.
And so thank God that more money doesn't equal more success.
Yes.
So that any startup has the chance to succeed, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So we've made the high level point, but maybe we should go into some
let's
of the
enumerate
details.
some of this because it's often the case. Hey, I'm guilty of this too. When I was a founder, where I'm like, man, once we raise this next round, we're on easy street. We can just like throw money at this problem. And like, no, there's no more problems. And the exercise I would do with office hours with a startup is to be like, oh, let's break it down. Let's enumerate. What are the problems? What are the bottlenecks in your business that you can throw money at that will be solved?
Yes.
And so kind of the goal of this video is let's go line by line.
I love it.
About problems that more money doesn't actually help you solve.
So Dalton, when I try to sell customers my product, they don't want to buy it.
So the most fundamental problem, of course, with any startup is making something people want.
Yes.
And sadly, more money in your bank account does not make people want your product more.
No.
But advertising, marketing, billboards, those might lead to some top of funnel.
Yes.
But you can't make someone want something that they don't want. No amount of money does that. Like remember all like the wearable things that people, all the like bad hardware things? Yeah.
So
no amount of money made people want to use those things.
And I'll go a step further. If you've got a bad product and you're spending advertising dollars on it, you are wasting those. Like I almost guarantee you are not making more money than you're spending on that advertising. The only company that's winning is Facebook.
You're diluting yourself too. You're actually hurting yourself than if you didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Because you may be faking yourself that you think people want your thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're dumping tons of money into Facebook ads, you're like, oh, we're growing. Here's our graph. But then if you plot the graph against your burn and it's the same graph, what are we learning exactly? Invest in Facebook. That's what we're learning.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and your company is going to die. So, competitor. Now that we have this war chest, oh god, the number of times like, well, we can make some acquisitions, or we can buy this fancy exec. You know, we can compete with this competitor better.
Again, sadly, the way that you win against a competitor is to be growing faster than them, and to have a better product, and that anything that's a distraction from growing faster than them is probably not the panacea that you hope. We have lots of companies on both sides of this particular debate over the years where they're either the underdog or it's a company that's raised more.
Yes.
And money doesn't really fix that. You don't just win by fiat when you raise more than a competitor.
You know, it's funny. I was talking about Workday the other day. Workday is an older company. It was interesting. This founder was basically telling me the Workday product absolutely sucks. And it's like full on, it sucks. It's the worst product out there. And what was so interesting is I realized at this moment that this founder was a startup founder and had no context for what the customers of Workday want, what they're looking for. And in fact, almost everything that this person hated about Workday was a thing that Workday's customers liked about Workday. And, you know, and the things that he cared about, like nice UI, his customers, the Workday customers did not give a shit about. And so I think what kind of blew my mind when I was thinking about this was just like, oh, wait, you want to spend money to make something better and you don't even know what the customer wants to buy.
Yep.
Like this will not work out. Like your imagination of what the customer wants, not correct. And so oftentimes when I think about this spending money, I mean, how many times do we tell people don't spend it? Because it's like you don't know how to convert it into value.
Dig yourself into a deeper hole. It's actually gonna be harder to course correct if you spend it on the wrong things.
Yes.
Like spending money on the wrong things and then stop spending it is like
so hard.
It's like being unaddicted to something. You know, you're like, wait, you already you got used to it. Like, oh no, it's much harder to get back off of it once you've been on it.
What about execs? That's a common place to spend more money. My CRO is going to change the revenue trajectory of my company.
Again, it's certainly possible, but more money alone does not mean it's going to work. If anything, if you're tempted to start hiring these people before you're ready, it's value destructive. Like hiring executives ahead of where you need them is notoriously value destructive. And let me extrapolate this a little bit, because you might be like, well, Dalton, yeah, whatever, you guys are making points, but hiring is one. More money means you can hire more people, right? And I have a nuanced point to make here.
Okay.
Certainly, having more money is good in the recruiting pitch on why they should work there. If you're like, hey, we have $10 million in the bank versus $1 million, I think a job candidate would want to hear that.
Yes.
Also, if you're like literally going broke and you don't have enough money to hire someone, this solves that issue.
Yes.
But here's the very nuanced point, is that if it seems like you have a lot of money, you might be tempted to recruit candidates who are entirely mercenary and all they care about is their cash comp, and they don't actually care about your startup and mission. And so instead of bringing in people that are really aligned with your vision, being aligned with what you're trying to do, you're just like throwing money at getting people to work there. I've seen a lot of that not work.
The other thing that I see with hiring is I see hiring by spreadsheet. We have money. Manager says, I need a team of N people to do things. You add N people to the headcount spreadsheet. The math works out. That's the end of your oversight.
Yeah.
And then the manager hires 8 shitty people.
Yes.
And
like the machine, you're like, you put money in the machine and what pops out is like,
not quality.
Not quality.
Yeah. But the money's spent.
The money is spent.
And so it's interesting because it's like, well, if you wanted to spend that money on hiring, like, did you care who was hired? Were you following up? Were you interviewing them? Were you involved? Oh, the money doesn't do that stuff. The money can't buy your attention.
Yep.
And so that's another area where it's like, oh, it's so painful to see. It's like, oh, I just need 3 sales pods. Just spend $2 million, get these 3 sales pods up, and then our enterprise sales is going to work. It's like, no, no, I'm sorry. Let's think about culture, because I think that's one that's a tricky one.
Because with hiring, this is actually the way money can help with hiring, is if it increases the chance you build a culture that people want to work in a place that people want to be a part of.
Yes.
And so if the money goes to your bank account and somehow we could draw a line to working at your company is awesome, then okay, thumbs up. That makes sense. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, maybe having a nice office or something. Okay, yeah, that's check.
Maybe.
You got it.
Yes.
But go ahead. Talk about the culture.
Yeah. One of the things that I see a lot is that you can spend a lot of money on your office and on your perks and so on and so forth, and still have a culture where the average employee doesn't care whether you win or lose. On the flip side, you can be running this company out of a Class C basement and have a culture where every employee comes in every day and wants to kill it.
Yep.
And so certainly it helps to pay people a livable wage.
Yep.
Right? Certainly it helps to get people healthcare and so on and so forth. But I wish that there were ways kind of above the basics that you could actually get a multiplier effect by spending more money. And unfortunately, I haven't seen it. And I think the other thing when it comes to hiring is that you might be able to delude yourself in how good your product is. Your employees, they're a little bit less biased.
Yep.
And so even if they come in super hyped and super excited, 3 months in, when they're interacting with the customers, when they're looking at the product, when they have more intimate knowledge, they know.
Yep.
They know. And money doesn't, oh, well, I'm really well paid, so I'm just going to lie to myself and tell myself this product's good. It doesn't work that well. What about focus?
So focus is really important. When you're at the earliest stages, you're forced to focus.
Yes.
And everything we taught people at YC was focus, 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 and it works.
Yes.
And you would see people fall off of that once they got a bunch of money,
Yes.
because it suddenly became possible
To
to
hedge.
do multiple things at once,
Yes.
to hedge, and to hire enough people to just do a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
And counterintuitively, this tends to not work, and it tends to be counterproductive
Yes.
to lose your focus.
It is so painful to watch a founder hedge, because you will inevitably in an office hour, there'll be there's always one thing they're the most excited by. And inevitably in a company that's hedging, they're putting less than 20% of their effort on the thing that they're objectively the most excited by. And you talk to them about why, and it's either oh, well, we have these other things that we can't stop working on. Why not? Is some boss on you? Or it's safety. I don't feel safe not working on 3 things at the same time, which always confuses me, because I'm you have a limited number of great people, you have a limited amount of attention, you have a limited amount of time. Why would you dilute those things?
Yeah.
Are you safer? I understand you feel safer. Are you safer? I always encourage people. It's I don't mind experimenting or hedging serially, right? You learn something and then you adjust and you iterate. But man, it's really hard to be learning on 3 different parallel things, especially. What's interesting is that way later than I would have thought, I think hedging is hard. Even companies generating $1 billion in revenue, I see
Maybe the way
situations
I
where
would
they're
riff on this is it's big company itis.
Yes.
If you bring big company itis, the earlier you get that way, the worse.
Yes.
And it's very hard to go back. Once you get a case of big company itis in your startup,
Yes.
It is very hard to ever get it back out. And so you want to keep that out as late as possible.
Yes. Yes.
Before that starts to seep in, right?
Yes. Yes. And this is one of these weird ones where I think hedging is a common thing that screws big companies. And you're trying to
you're copying the exact wrong thing.
You're trying to bring that infection into your company, like really, really bad.
Why should someone raise money? Okay, you guys are enumerating all these like horror stories. Maybe I should just, raise $1 million and never raise another dollar. Like maybe that's the right thing. Why isn't that the right call?
So I'll start with the depressing thing. There are so few situations I see where a company is actually doing really well. I think that's like not talked about enough. That is somewhat rare that a company is significantly helping customers and doing it in an interesting and kind of good way. And I think in those scenarios, there are often a lot of things that money can help with. Like one, that incremental hire oftentimes is extremely helpful. Two, marketing. When you're telling someone about a product that's good, and predictably, if they know about it, they'll try it and they'll start using it and they'll like it and they'll retain. That's very, very good.
Yeah, again, maybe a riff on that. I think that's exactly my point. Is I think about this in terms of payback periods.
Yes.
Where if you have the machine.
Who's cooking? Bro. Where's the boss, man? There's a boss here, apparently. Damn. Wow. Defeated us quite easily. No. More plasteel. We need more plasteel. Increase full. Where's the thing? High quality bait, onions. Need more onions. The hell? 6. Hmm. Zombie. Zombie. Oh my god. Hello. Hello, what's up? Are you okay? Ha 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 ha. Polymer. Yeah, I'm still playing that game. I timed it, so over 6 hours. Still quite a lot. It's quite addictive, but it's a different kind of addictive to Pokemon Go. Bing, 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 bing. It's pretty damn addictive. It's like crack. Let's see, combat tier. Oh. Apparently this one's right good. You have to go inside the tunnel nearby to access it. Okay. I'm okay. Are you tired from work? Oh, mother. Oh, mother. What the fuck is all this? You're not? Okay, so it wasn't that as busy. I'm crafting. This game is addictive. I'm crafting a saddle. It's not very interesting. It's not very interesting. I could show you, but was busy, but you're okay. That's good. That's very good. Oh my god. Well, if you need help, you can just ask. I don't know if I'd be very useful, but dun dun dun. So there's there's this thing. No, I might not be very useful. I'm not a trained coffee person. This thing looks like a girl. It looks like a Pokemon. Where is it gone? You can ride it. It's pretty cool. It looks like a female. You can fly too. Like sitting on it. Oh, modders. That's what makes it different from... Oh my god. Oh my god, that's pretty cool. You can't do that in Pokemon. At least not right now. Oh. What happened? What happened? Oh, that's cool. The fuck? Its cooldown's so slow. Oh, that's like a laser. Models, man. My days, we're doing this shit for such a long time. Got so many eggs. This is why it's so addictive. You're literally sitting here farming these damn eggs. And then there's like 20 eggs here. Oh my god. But I'm trying to complete the game so I can stop playing it. So I can get off this damn game. But it is better than the latest Pokemon games. You see why it's popular. I can see why it's popular now. It is better than... I've tried the latest Pokemon games. It's actually better. It's much better. You can fly with that shit. And fly with... Oh my god. Oh my god. We're on the parachute. We could have died. We would have died on entry. Where the fuck is that pal? Wow, it's like a laser. It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. Its cooldown is long though. It's like a female. What is that move? Oh. Entering anti-air zone. Avoid being shut down. Wrong way. We're going the wrong way. His position is so random. Like literally sitting on the crescent is quite funny. Am I recording this? I think it's quite funny. We're sitting on the moon of the thing. Oh my god. I feel like this design girls will like it. It's actually like a female pal. You know. I don't know. I'm blue every day. Oh, about die. I lost my save file yesterday. It was really annoying. Lost like 10 hours gameplay, so I kind of sped it up this time. Kind of cheating. Wow. It's strong. Let's see what its attack damage is. It's only 700 attack damage. Wow. You prefer bear? You mean Swinub? Okay, so this is why this game is so addictive. There's literally like a huge map. I'm trying to complete the game so I can start playing it, but this is already way more like... There's way more content than Legends Arceus. Which is why... And I'm trying to get to a certain area to get... Where am I trying to go to? I'm trying to go here to fight the boss. I'm going the wrong way. It's sitting on this damn moon, man. You can attack stuff while flying, but you can't do that in Pokemon. You can attack stuff from all the... Oh, wait. We missed? We missed. You can't. It's too high. It's too damn high. You can't attack when flying in Pokemon. So that's why people are criticizing, saying this is actually better than modern Pokemon games. And I think they have made it better. I need to find that flying spot. Crazy, man. Where's the flame? Trying to find a save location. So, where is that? I don't have it saved. It's somewhere here. Down here. Okay, I see it now. I see it now, so we would die. Or we jump down too low. Oops. The player will die. Oops. Oops. Where's the freaking thing? There we go. We got it. Now we have to go here. Oh. What is that? What the fuck is this shit? What the fuck is that? Oh, is that the boss? I think that might be the boss. No? It's not. It's not the boss. We KO'd it. I think we need Ring of Mercy because we put the attack damage too high. Where is it? This damn waterfall is too tall. If this game would be more fun with actual other people than just yourself. You can play it multiplayer, but maximum of 32 people. Actually, now I've installed it on your PC, you can actually play it. I think in the same world too, but I'm trying to find the boss. Apparently this boss is quite good to capture. Oh, it's in here. I think. Peeping Cavern. Where the fuck? I can't see. I can't see. What the hell is all this shit? Yeah, you can play with 2 people. But you don't have to play it if you don't want to play it. Yeah. You can play a maximum of 32 people, I think. Okay. I caught that. We're running after this damn thing. Damn, it's dodging all of it. Where the hell is the boss? To walk all the way in here. I don't know what all this is. Life loaders. There's a lot of content in the game. See why it's popular. Where the hell? How do we get out of here? Where the hell is the exit? Doesn't seem to be anything here. There's like the Digimon game, they made us walk in circles. Where the fuck is the exit? Can't remember where we went in now. Nah. What the hell is that? Can we fly through that? What the hell is that? We can't fly through that, can we? No, we cannot. The fuck? They trapped us down here. Okay. Where the hell is the exit? I think it's here. I see it now. I see it now. Oh, there we go. Oh. Talentless. Okay. Ring of Mercy. Cheeky bastard. Cheeky bastard. Just want to fight the boss. There's too many of these mofos. Where's the boss, man? Trying to get to the damn boss. Too many of these mofos. La la la. We're running through this. Am I recording this? Yeah. Recording. I am. Oh, I think this is the boss. Is this the boss? Is this the boss? This is the boss. No? I think it is. Oh, it's not the boss of the island, though. Oh. %5 capture rate. This is not the one I wanted. This is the cave boss. It's not the cool dragon thing. I don't think this is the boss I was looking for. It's not the boss I was looking for. Okay. Okay. Do you know where it is? It says it's on this river. It's not the one I was looking for. Let's see. It says it's here. So where is it? It says it's here on the map. Let me ask it. It's available as a field alpha boss in the south of the. Let me just YouTube it. How do you find it? How do you find this boss? Apparently this boss is strong. Location Palworld.
Chicken McNugget.
There's the boss.
Michael's not feeling the best of it.
Best island in the game. I want to head here. Then we're gonna literally very like I don't know. Foxparks has built-in. Which is the Guardian Dragon of Iron.
Okay, how do you get that? What the fuck?
It may be of Faybreak Island, which is, you know, the furthest to the southwest island in the game, which is right next to the floating islands. And here you can find a point called the Shield Dragon Tunnel at -972, -977.
Oh, it's here.
You want to head here, then we're going to literally go inside of this cavern over here, and the dragon that we were looking for, Sylvius, is hiding inside.
Oh, down here.
In here to Shield Dragon Tunnel. It may be dark. If it's really a problem for you, you know, bring something like a lantern to areas like these if your light settings are
I
kind of
see
low,
it.
or you can bring
Somewhere
a fire
here.
that actually has a fire display. Mine does not.
So where's
You can
the?
bring, like, I don't know, Foxparks has built-in torch, so that's another good example. Or you could just build a lantern. Those are pretty early game. Or just follow
Somewhere
the
here.
mushrooms. So once we get all
Wait, how do you go in?
We just have to pop in here to shield Legendary Dragon, and this can be found sort of in the center of Faybreak Island, which is, you know, the and here you can find a teleport point called the Shield Dragon Tunnel at negative 972, negative 977.
One negative what? What? No, negative 972, 977. It's here. Shield Dragon Tunnel. It was alright. How's your day? How's your day, Akom? He says it's here. So where the fuck is it? Where the fuck is the cave? I don't see the cave. Oh, is it this one? I think it's in here. I think we found the cave. We found the cave! The Shield Dragon Tunnel. We found it. We found the cave now. Let me see. That's good. Record. Record! Okay, we found the cave of the dragon. Put the ring on. I think the dragon's in here. Pretty cool cave. It's good. What'd you do today? Where the fuck is the dragon, man? It's a very dark cave. Oh, where's the dragon? Oh, this is pretty cool, the way they designed it. Is there a dragon here? There it is. I see it now. This guy! This is the dragon. Okay, we did a lot of damage with 3x damage. A mercy hit. We need the legendary spear. Damn, legendary spear is not working. It was okay. Damn. To use ultimate spear then. What the fuck? Get in and bow. Oh, got it. We got it. Heavyweight and workaholic. We got it. First kill. Let's leave this place. Apparently that's a really strong boss. So I'll probably keep it on the team. Where is it? How do we exit? How do we leave? Okay. Oh, ho, 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 ho. How do we leave this place? Something on my mind I'm telling you, because your loneliness as an only child. What, you feeling lonely? I would feel that if I was just in the house by myself, I didn't talk to anyone. And you're more likely, you feel that more after you graduate. Oh, it's level 62, workaholic. What's the shield? Can be ridden. Reduces shield damage. But you're not only child, right? Holy shit. I think if you have a wife, it should be better to keep you company. We got a lunker and lavish hospitality. I think it should be better if you have home as company. Got a thin-sided Ignis. Oh, you have half siblings, but you didn't live with them, right? Would you say half siblings are like actual? Well, I don't know if you call them. At least, I guess you have someone that's half TNA from your mom's side. Let's see. Me and your mom. Oh, did your dad not split up? Okay, let me see. I got a fish that says Demon God. What's Fingerlope? Fingerlope, Fingerlope. Okay, so nothing good. Nothing good. it seems. You've never met him? Okay. Your life would be better without him. So where is he? In the UK? People joke that they just contributed the sperm, but I guess it's your mom that raised you. Well, I don't know. For me, it's both my parents, so I can't say that about my dad, obviously. I don't know. Wouldn't you be curious about like meeting your biological? Steve Jobs said the same thing, right? He had the biological father, but he never I think he's met his biological father, but his dad didn't know it was him. That Steve Jobs was his child. Well, obviously, I read his autobiography. You wouldn't want to meet them if they're not around. If they weren't around. See, I'd be curious about the kid. Oh, so it's not a sperm donor. Didn't think it was a sperm donor. It's not what? Advanced assembly line. How do you make this? Coryllium ore. Coryllium ore. No, that's not what I thought. That's not how most people have a kid. It's not what I thought happened. Don't. Sperm bank. I don't think women need to go to a sperm bank. Well, it's probably like couples that can't have a kid. Let's see. Azuma Services Saddle. Saddle. High quality cloth. Lily's weapon. Advanced quest. Chromomite. Gigantic furnace. So we need more polymer. Polymerization. High quality power oil. How long are we being on this now? What's the timer at? Oh. I think I'll come off it then. My timer's gonna ring in 15 seconds. I'm gonna come off it then. I'll come off it. I think I played already like over 6 hours there. My timer was gonna go off.